Welcome back to the apartment. My name is Ali Baluch. Missing is my co-host Asif Ali. If this is your first time watching, welcome. This is the apartment. It's our chance, or my chance, I feel like right now, to sit with our favorite diverse content creators, influencers, musicians, athletes, actors, and we just get to, hear about their story and about their journey. This week we have Humble the Poet, and he is a writer. He's an author, a poet, a musician, a creator. He's a lot of things. He's a teacher, or was a teacher. But anyway, you know what? First of all, I want to apologize. We've been out for like almost, I want to say nearly like a month and a half. I was in DC. I was in Virginia for about a month, filming a campaign video, basically. So I was busy doing that. Asif's been all over the place, but hopefully within the next few weeks, we have a lot of guests lined up. We're coming back full force. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please give us some type of rating or review, and leave like a comment on the page. I don't know if you can do that through your phone or if you have to do it through a laptop. If this is on SoundCloud, I don't know, favorite it, I guess. I don't know. And if this is on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us some hate comments. That would be greatly appreciated. And subscribe while you're at it, So enjoy this episode. This is episode 32 with Humble the Poet. Where are you at these days?
I stay with Lily when I'm here.
Okay.
And then she's in West Hollywood now.
Damn, like, how's your schedule looking like these days? Are you
Your schedule or mine?
Your schedule, man, because like you're like, I'm in Toronto and then I'm back and I'm only here for a week and then
Yeah, I was supposed to be here for longer. I booked. I came here. I'm going to an event. In Phoenix, actually, called Google's Zeitgeist. It's like TED. I guess Google kind of throws their own TED Talks.
Oh, okay.
Some super cool people. So it's like sit in a room and just with some brilliant minds.
Yeah.
And just discuss some brilliant stuff. So I got to go last year to their event called Google Camp.
Oh, damn.
And that was in Italy, and that was like,
wow.
Like, it was, I call it the friendly Illuminati. It was like all these, like Malala was there, she did a presentation.
Oh my God.
Jordan did a presentation.
What? Queen Rania?
Yeah. Pharrell, George Lucas. It was like all these crazy people, and then I was just like a kid in a candy store, just sitting there, just like listening to everything they were saying. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
Founders of Google were there. They did a talk. Getting the Q&A.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's incredible, and it's always dope to be in those spaces. Do you usually feel like there's not, I feel like Google and YouTube are really trying to push the envelope with like having the right people in the right rooms, and having like diverse rooms.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's harder to get into these rooms being a person of color?
No. I don't think being a person of color makes things difficult. in general, I don't know. Like I think like there are, so before I was in this world, I was a school teacher.
Yeah. Doing elementary, right?
Doing elementary school. Yeah. So being a male and a visible minority gave me a ridiculously unfair advantage.
Okay.
And getting hired.
Yeah.
Because elementary schools don't have a lot of males, let alone males of color.
Yeah.
So my qualifications were like, I remember bombing the job interview and getting the job. Like when they asked me technical questions about certain policies, ideas, and teaching styles, I didn't know the answers, and I still got the job because I filled the part. So that's when I kind of realized that there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Some other places looking like this isn't always the best.
So you feel like it was kind of like affirmative action on why to fill like a status quo?
No, not affirmative action. It was to fill a need. They specifically needed men of color, not to check off a box, but to actually have a real impact on these kids. Because I was teaching in a neighborhood. I taught for 6 years and I never had a white kid.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a needy neighborhood, new immigrants mixed with folks stuck in the cycle. So they needed that. So it wasn't like an affirmative action thing, more so than like, this is what we need for this neighborhood. And I think that's when you start to realize like there's pros and cons to looking this way or what have you. And I feel like, to be honest, like the rise of Donald Trump has opened up a lot of doors for me.
Yeah.
Because a guy like me now represents the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
The middle finger to Donald Trump. Let's put this guy in front.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the things that I'm able to talk about now wouldn't be so relevant when Obama was in charge.
Oh yeah.
So I think Donald Trump has forced a lot of people to stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was reading about you being an elementary school teacher, and I found that really fascinating. You know, like I want to know all about that. I mean, I want to know what grades did you teach?
I taught all the little ones. So pretty much just growing up, I used to go to a lot of different youth events, and I grew up in them. And then once you hit about 15, 16, you start to be volunteers at them and what have you. So I had a lot of experience with kids, and I had a good demeanor with them, and it was a lot of fun. And I was finishing university. I had a degree in IT, and then it was like, I'm gonna do my MBA. Like that's what you're supposed to do.
But why IT?
At that point, that's just, you know, you're a high school kid. You know, you just apply for whatever you can apply for. You don't know.
Was that something you're passionate about, or?
No, I wasn't even too familiar with what it was. I just assumed it was something that can get me a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I wasn't thinking above and beyond at that point. There was no passion-driven anything. I was just trying to, you know.
Were you like friends and family doing IT as well?
No, I mean, to this day, like I have two sisters, and they're both in commerce, which at that point I had no idea what that was either.
Yeah.
I think it was just more so like just sticking to the immigrant template. Your parents want you to do something safe and secure. You know, so you're like, all right, I'm going to university. What are the programs that will get me hired? It's like computer science, IT, all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
It was cool. I was really good at math, and you know, I think learning algorithms and coding and stuff like that was super interesting. It teaches you a different way to think.
Oh yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, what's next? Supposed to do MBA. MBA is like the best way to get a job.
Yeah.
And then I think that's the point where I was like, I have no urge to do it. The only incentive is it would probably guarantee me employment.
Oh yeah.
So I knew people in my family who had done MBAs. And I think like one cousin, his first internship was with Nike. The second was with Ford, and like they both offered him jobs. I was like, oh crap, you can get a job off doing this. So let's do it. I think that's when somebody brought it up to me. I think it was one of my sisters. She's just like, you're good with kids. Why don't you do that? And then I reached out to somebody who was a teacher at the time. He kind of showed me the ropes of what to do, how to apply. Yeah. And then took that road.
So you mentioned you were working with the youth. Were you doing like before that? So were you doing a lot of like youth organizing and?
Yeah, youth organizing stuff in the Punjabi community, stuff in the Sikh community growing up.
So what made you like give a shit about the youth, to put it in a weird way? But like, you know, because a lot like, you know, even like in the Muslim and Afghan community, I was very youth oriented. I was very like in the organizing side, and then I had friends that just were like, why do you even give a shit, man? Like, worry about yourself, you know?
I think especially, I think growing up in it just made you part of that community. Like you know, and if you're like an 8-9-year-old boy and you're getting, you know, taught how to read Punjabi, or you're getting taught how to read a certain hymn from like a cooler 16, 17-year-old, like you start looking up to them, and you slowly fill their roles for some other kids. And I think for me, it was more like this is what I was used to. I really didn't have much of an emotional attachment to it. But I think what I realized is I picked up a lot of skills on communication from that. And then as I got older, when folks in the community started identifying problems that we were going through, their approach to addressing them was, in my opinion, completely wrong. They would just say stuff like, oh, our kids are corrupt, they're hopeless, they're all this. And I'm just like, oh, they don't listen. And I think at that point, having experience as a youth counselor and as an elementary school teacher, I was like, it's not that they're not listening, it's that you don't know how to speak to them. And then that's kind of when I was like, well, let me try. And that's what kind of birthed Humble the Poet. It was my trying to show that if we can openly communicate with people more realistically, because I also used to tutor high school kids on the side for cash. So I'd be hanging out with like 16, 17-year-olds, and eventually they'd be sharing their problems and what have you. Most of these kids that I was tutoring, they didn't have academic issues. They most likely had behavioral issues. So just kind of being able to speak to them without them feeling lectured, I think that was a really big thing they wanted, they were looking for. And there was a gap between our parents' generation, these immigrants who gave up whatever they had, wherever they had it, came here, you know, and all they wanted was safety and security, not understanding the economies they had, whether it's here or Canada. And I think I felt like I served as a buffer in between. I was able to communicate with these kids, and it was more so like, instead of being like, stay in school, don't skip class, it would be like, it's January in Toronto. Why are you skipping class? Like,
Yeah.
it's cold. Like,
Yeah.
set yourself up
Yeah.
so when May and June comes,
You'll have freedom.
You'll
Yeah.
have some more freedom to actually enjoy the weather and go outside and
Yeah.
skip a few classes without getting in trouble. Like,
Yeah.
why are you skipping school in the middle of the winter? Stay inside. Like, and I think they appreciated the
It was more, yeah, exactly.
more practical.
Yeah, it was a very more rational approach.
Yeah,
as
it wasn't like they didn't feel judged.
Yeah.
It was just more so like, look, you can do it now, or you
Yeah.
can do it later, and you're old enough to understand the idea of long-term consequences now. Little young kids can't get that. When I taught the 8-9-year-olds,
Yeah.
they don't have it in their brain yet. But older ones, you can say, look, you know what's going to happen if you keep doing this.
Yeah.
And there ain't going to be no one else there for you after that.
How'd you survive with kids, man? I can't be around them for too long, you know.
I can't. To be honest, I couldn't either. It was it took a lot of energy, but being with them is fun. Like when you're teaching really young ones, you're really managing class, you're managing behavior. It's a lot less about the academics and more so about that stuff. You just you kind of have to build. Being around them also can give you energy. It really depends, and it depends on your demeanor. I was a proactive, disciplinary person, so I kind of like laid the groundwork, laid the ground rules, made everything crystal clear. So I wasn't very reactive to them. So I was never like getting upset with them, or they didn't really have an opportunity to kind of get under my skin because I already kind of set the tone of what was cool, what wasn't, and what the consequences would be.
Down.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any angry parents come in and?
I've had the opposite.
Really?
Like, I've had like parents come up to me like take me to the side and being like, "It's okay if you hit my kid." You know, those are like Pakistani parents or like Gujarati parents.
My
whatever.
mom literally said that.
She said it to a teacher. Right?
We had this, like, it was 7th grade. We had I had a meeting with my with all my teachers, and my mom came in the middle of the day. So it was like my math, my English, and then she's like, you know, you can discipline him however you want. You can hit him. You have my permission. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God.
Yeah,
and
completely.
then the whole white teachers were like, no, I don't think that's appropriate.
Yeah, see, mine, they speak to me like Urdu or Punjabi. They just be like, don't worry, we won't tell the principal. We understand. We know what the white people's rules are. It's okay. And I'm like, you're telling me to hit your kid because his writing is messy. Like, you're not even talking about academics. You're talking about the neatness of his writing. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
And a majority of the school too was new immigrants, especially I think number one population was Gujarati kids, and then it was Urdu speaking kids from Pakistan, and Punjabis. So the ones that would come from their home countries over, they were used to getting hit.
Yeah.
So sometimes if I came down on a kid, like they'd start flinching as if I was gonna hit them.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting experience.
Yeah. I was more behavioral. So like I was just talking a lot. Just being obnoxious, cracking jokes. So that's why mom's like, if you got to hit him, hit the kid.
It's a tricky thing to have.
Yeah.
I have a nephew right now who's not the most academically astute, but he's an amazing soccer player.
Yeah.
And I'm probably the first person in the family who went non-traditional and has something to show for it. So now it's a little bit interesting to see how the option exists for him to pursue soccer. Like, he's 9, but he's in a rep league already. He's working hard, and like they're okay with that idea. Like, maybe we can. You know, I've been telling them, like, you work your butt off, I'll save up some FIFA bribe money, and, you know, we'll make this work practically.
For sure. You know, we asked this with all of our guests, but like, you know, and I feel like it's important to ask all the guests because everyone has a unique story. So you mentioned that you're like the first in the family that didn't do a traditional like path.
Yeah.
Like, how did your family react to that?
I'm also the youngest. I'm also a boy, so, you know, any Brown family, they have a little bit more. We have a little bit more wiggle room to do what we want as we please. So I think that played a part. And I was working as a school teacher. And it was kind of like I was just doing art, spoken word, poetry, a little bit of hip hop on the side, just like on the weekends. Excuse to meet girls, go cool places. Just like, you know, once you're working, like there's no homework. Just like, what are you doing after work? Like that's what life's supposed to be. You work during the day and then you have a life at night. And I looked at art to be a cool outlet. And when it started taking a life of its own, like, it wasn't something I was trying to pursue or had the confidence to think I could ever do it full time. But as I got traction and opportunities were coming, I never really sacrificed the work. And I was also tutoring. So I'd work, let's say, 8 to 4 as a teacher, and then I'd be tutoring kids from like 5 to 9.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'd go to like a studio or something like that, work on some other stuff. So I think my family's a full day. I guess that busy's a blessing, right?
Yeah.
So, and I also realized then, like, I wasn't known as the hardest working teacher. I was known as, like, he's a nice guy, but he's not really up to date on his paperwork. He's not going the extra mile.
Yeah.
But, you know, in this world, especially in Toronto, I was known as one of the harder workers. Always working, you know, keeping a high standard of what I was expecting of myself and those around me.
Yeah.
And that really clicked in my head. I was like, how could I be known as the lazy guy in one place and the hard working guy in the other? And that's when you kind of realize there's no such thing as being lazy. When you do what you love to do, it'll never feel like work or what have you. And I don't want to sound cliche about the whole idea of passion and stuff. It's more so just, I think I just realized where it doesn't feel like work when you're so into it. And I think that's when I made that realization, I was like, I need to do this much more. And in like 2010, so the one cool thing about being a teacher is you get the summers off with a paycheck.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so paychecks are still coming in every 2 weeks, but you're not working. It was interesting because every holiday, my parents would like, I would be such a bum.
Yeah.
I still had paychecks coming in, but like during the Christmas break or whatever, I would just be staying up all night, watching TV all day, doing nothing.
Yeah.
But I had money coming in. So one summer, I had actually come out here to the Bay. I went to Daly City, that little foggy ass city below San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I stayed with a buddy there who was doing full-time music. And just watching him like get $50 a gig here, $100 a gig there, and using all of that to like pay his rent to live in this one bedroom in a house that he was renting.
Oh man.
It really and I had never thought about actually like trying to do this full time.
Yeah.
And I had the comfort of my teacher salary supporting me. So even when I'm doing this, pretending to be a rapper, I had good money coming in.
Yeah.
But I think I fell in love with it after that summer.
Okay.
And then going back to work in September, it just didn't feel right.
No.
And then I left by December.
Did you always feel that, like, did you always have something in the back of your mind where you're like, this is not what I want to do? Like while you're like teaching or while you're doing IT, or did you just not even question it?
No, I think what I always, at that point, up until that point, had always been looking for the path of least resistance. Like, what can I do to get a job? How can I get the most money? What have you?
Yeah.
I didn't struggle much academically. I was doing very well, and a lot of guys who I went to school with, that I would be doing just as well as them. They actually pursued more challenging endeavors. Like one of my good friends became a doctor.
Wow.
A couple became lawyers. And what I realized early was I sold myself short going into teaching because it's not the most academically challenging. There's a lot of it's really hard to get hired. There's a big pool. There's much more supply than demand. It takes a lot of energy. It does take a certain skills, but it's not like going to law school. It's not like going to med school. And those were things I always knew I was completely capable of doing, and I just never did because I didn't want to put in the energy. So I think when I started realizing that it's kind of like your potential is use it or lose it.
Yeah.
I think I got to that point where it's like, I'm not using my potential. I can challenge myself more. What's the next challenge? And then I actually started studying for my LSAT. I was going to pursue law and still loving the music, loving the art, but never having confidence that I could do it. Yeah. And I think then I just had a moment where I was just like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to leave this job and pursue art. Pursue law. Yeah. And then I think I kind of had this conversation with myself where it's like, look, man, you're going to be doing the same thing 3 years from now. You're going to be wanting to do something else. And then just, do what you would do if you weren't afraid to do anything. And then that was pursuing the arts.
Yeah. Were you an athletic kid growing up?
No, I played on my high school volleyball team. But
volleyball team? Yeah. Damn, I love volleyball.
Volleyball's dope. Yeah.
Dude, we play every Sunday. You should come out, man.
Oh, dope? Where you guys play?
Santa Monica. I always try to get like a little group together and we play every like Sunday at the beach.
I'm game when I'm here. I'll be back in November.
For sure, man. But like it's just like every Afghan that I've met just plays like volleyball. We're shit. We're awful. We only play for fun. Yeah. I did a semester in college. But okay, so once you kind of like shifted all that attention into art, a lot of people think it's easy. Where they're like, oh, like I'm a creative person. I can kind of do this, like I've dabbled in photography. I've dabbled in this and like I've done like garage band, little beats, but like what is the work that goes into it, and like I'm sure you're the 10,000 hours, like, what were your 10,000 hours that you?
I think I don't even think it's going to be about the 10,000 hours, because the tricky thing is you're talking about mixing in creativity with commerce.
Mm-hmm.
It's never about, anybody can be a painter,
Yeah.
right? But when people think about being a painter, talking about, oh no, I want to paint stuff and I want people to love it so much that they give me enough money to live.
Yeah.
So what was happening in the beginning was I was working as a teacher. I had a steady income and I was creating art for the sake of creating art. And probably, if anything, I was just trying to feed my ego.
Yeah.
When you become a full-time artist, you have to focus on feeding your wallet. Like, how are you going to eat? How are you going to live? And not even understanding how the industry would work, what are the streams of revenue? Like, how do people make money? I put my stuff on YouTube because I didn't know where to put it. Like, I have music. Where do I put my music? YouTube's the only place back. It's like 08, 09.
Yeah.
And still not knowing, like, how would this translate into money? Like, I didn't even know back then, like, how were the rappers I was listening to making money?
Yeah.
And it was a lot of trial and error, and I was extremely broke. I wasn't, I didn't have any. When you're a young person working a salary job, you like allocate every dollar of that salary to something useless. And I was actually in debt.
Oh man.
I was in debt, not even like a good debt. I was just in like debt from wasting money and playing in the stock market, just doing stuff that you thought you're supposed to do. And when you're young and have some income, and I left all that, so I had about $80,000 debt.
Oh my!
With no job. I quit and had no job. Thought I had a publishing deal that was gonna like help me dent that debt. That fell through. So then it was like, you have no job, no source of income. You're living on your own.
Yo, you're giving me anxiety right now, man.
Well, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like, and I was doing all this. And I was like, you have nothing going on for you, nor can you just say work harder, because I don't even know how to make money. Like, where is the money going to come from?
Yeah.
And because when I was a teacher, I would get a gig here or there, just take a day off work. All the money that came in was just bonus. Like, if somebody gave me a couple $100 to perform somewhere, I'd blow that money on dinner with my friends after. I wasn't trying to live off of it.
Yeah.
And it took me about all of 11 was my denial year. I just continued living off a credit card, thinking this will figure itself out.
Yeah.
12 was the sobering year, which was like, all right, what's not bolted to the floor? What can I sell? What can I get rid of? How can I minimize my life?
Yeah.
So all of 12, all of 13, probably the end of 14, I got myself out of debt.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And then after that, the gift of that was learning getting out of debt and then remaining in the starving artist lifestyle was the secret. Like, don't get out of debt and start spending money.
Yeah.
So then like 15 was, I was earning and good things were happening. Lily took me on tour. That was a good, both educational and good income doing that.
Yeah.
And then, so that put me in the green. And then by 16 is when I got to the point where I was like, okay, you know how to live with a little. Let's not make any decisions this year with regards to money.
Yeah.
And then that's when everything changed. So the second money stopped being a decision maker.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Then I made way more money.
That's incredible.
That was a very interesting thing. These last 2 years, it became a very interesting when you don't let money. Like, before that, I had to say yes to anything and everything that paid.
Yeah.
And then when it was, I remember specifically it was in 16. I was like, I'm just gonna pretend I have $50 million in the bank. I'm only gonna say yes to things that are exciting.
Yeah.
Let's see where we go.
Dude, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's been cool.
I mean, a lot of people aren't able to make that turnaround. A lot of people, once they look at that statement month after month, and it's like interest is piling up. It's scary, man. Because
I was there. I was at its worst. I was drinking NyQuil every day.
Oh man.
Like, literally, I was literally hoping something was gonna take care of this for me.
Yeah.
And my only strategy was to wait it out. Like, literally, drink NyQuil, fall asleep for 8-9 hours, wake up to see if that guy who was supposed to hit you up with something was there, and
new email with some opportunities,
or the opportunities that people were dragging their feet. Sometimes people speak to you, and later on you learn it. Like, nothing is solid until like The money ain't real until the money is in your bank.
Exactly.
A signed contract doesn't mean nothing. Somebody's word doesn't mean nothing. The check doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah.
Until it's deposited and cleared in the bank, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of those things floating around.
Those are the worst.
The waiting is the worst.
I dealt with that the first year I got to LA.
Yeah.
I did an internship with Nickelodeon for a little bit, and then right after that, I got in a deal with like this guy that was like, hey, I want you to be like a director in my production company. And he was like, we're going to get paid this amount. Your salary is going to start like in a month, this and that. Just clear your schedule because we're going to be busy. We're going to be shooting. And I did that. Every time little projects came up, I'm like, I can't take it because I'm busy. That month came around, nothing. And he's like, all right, man, sorry about the delay. Next month, we're all up and running. Here, send me your W-9. Let's get started. I'm like, awesome, thank God.
He said W-9. It's got to be legit.
Yeah.
You start convincing yourself.
Yeah. Because you want to believe it.
You do. That's the only reason people get away with lying. It's because we want to believe it.
And then, like, that month came around. And then it was just, like, just being, like, I think I learned quick in my first, like, few months in LA, or my first year, that, like, you can't trust anybody because everyone's all talk. And I think that's what...
Especially in LA.
Oh, my God. Wow. It's all like, yo, man, let's connect. Let's do this. I have some great ideas. Let's do this. You know, and it's just a lot of talk, a lot of promise, a lot of hype. And it was that first like 10 months that I was in LA. It was the first year because after that I was like, I give up. Like a full year came around and I was like, fuck film, man. Like, what did I do? Yeah. And I was like, I think I'm done, man. I think I'm done to like, I gotta be like, work in an office and be like, I was applying for like a assistant position at like Comedy Central or something. You know, I was like, forget production. I'm going the like development route. Yeah. I'm still in the industry, but like, and then all of a sudden, like everything just kind of like spiraling to like in a good direction. And then doors start opening. And I was like, okay, I'm glad I didn't make that jump, but yeah, man, it's tough.
It's tuition. That's how I look at it. Mm-hmm. Like the problem with being in a non-traditional industry, whatever it may be, is that there's no template. Like, you want to be a doctor, you go to med school for like 10 plus years. Yeah. You go in a crap load of debt, but everybody knows the path and they trust that you'll follow it. Yeah. But if somebody says, hey, you want to become a mainstream rapper, you want to become a director making full-time money, it's going to take you, there's no template. Yeah. So not as many people around you are going to give you that 10 years to figure it out, or that 10,000 hours or what have you. And again, when you go to med school, you pay tuition. We pay tuition too through these botched deals, these scams, these whatever. And again, my path is going to be always unique to your path. And it's not for the faint of heart. Mm-hmm. You can't cut corners. Yeah. And
you got to pay your dues.
You got to pay your dues, and you also got to understand that it will never feel as good as you're promising yourself it's going to feel. Yeah. Because that's what keeps you alive. Yeah. You're like, don't worry, once it happens, once I get that check, whatever. And then the reality is, if the only way to get your $1 million check is to be aiming for 10 million. So you're not appreciating that million when you got it because you're aiming. You always have to be over aiming and stuff like that. And that's the big thing I learned coming out to LA, which was kind of like it all the things that you dream for you can have here, and everybody I know is still struggling with something else. Yeah. And I think that was a really good gift for me because that made me slow my brakes and be like, all right, I'm not here to consume as much as I can or pursue as much as I can or earn as much as I can, because I'm seeing, we have a lot of mutual friends. You see it, people who are in tax brackets we can't even dream of, and they're just sad. Yeah. And you're just like, then what's the point? Yeah. Like, really, what's the point? Especially here. And I noticed that here because it's like, here's a place where people have a lot, but the environment is not really conducive to be super happy. Like, nobody here has family. Yeah. Right? We're all like transplants. We're all transplants. Yeah. We're all by ourselves. This is a city that really encourages individualism. Mm-hmm. Everybody measures everybody in terms of how can this person help me? Yeah. Is this person useful to me?
Dude, that's so true.
And it's in
any event you go to, if the person's not gonna help you in any way, you're like, all right, no, so who's the next person I gotta
who's the next person? Who's that person? You hear it in conversations. You hear what, just like, oh, that person reached his numbers ain't that good. It's whatever. And just like, man, like, what happened to just like finding people who did stuff that excited you and like what? Because at the end of the day, you can keep earning all this money, but for what? Like, really for what? Like, people that normally say, once I get my money right, then I'm gonna do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Why don't we just start focusing on X, Y, Z before the money's right? And, you know, try to be a little bit more fulfilled. That's why I do 50-50. I do half here, half in Toronto.
Okay.
And then there's pros and cons to both cities, but like Toronto, at least there's a little bit more for me. Community, family, authenticity. I connect with the city I grew up. I was born and raised there.
Yeah.
It influences my art. But I mean, obviously, if I want to kick in the butt and I want to focus on productivity and working here, definitely the one thing that I will give as a Canadian, I will give America credit for is you guys have a much better culture when it comes to risk taking and entrepreneurship.
Interesting.
That's not there.
Really?
So the one thing we can all do in LA is you can come up in a room full of people with the most crazy idea.
Yeah.
Even if they don't want to help you, there's no one really there that's going to talk you out of it. There's no one there that's going to project a fear on you.
Yeah.
Back home, if you have any idea, oh, but what if that doesn't happen? Oh, but what if this doesn't work? You know what I mean? Like, that culture is not there. Out there, like, the highest performers are usually getting good jobs. Like, you know, back in the days, all the tech companies would go to the Toronto universities and just headhunt. We weren't making Zuckerbergs or Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. They were just stealing our top talent and making them like VPs. Yeah. And that always was an issue for me, because like, that fear is what makes you want to pull. You know, that fear keeps you from pulling the trigger to make that first step. Yeah. And then coming out to the States, everybody's willing. Like, oh, what are you doing? What's up? Let's just figure it out. And I like that. I really appreciate that about the States. Yeah. We don't have that as much in Canada.
It's that drive. It's what pushes you to, you know, step out of that comfort zone. Yeah. You know?
It feels like people here become adults a lot quicker.
Yeah. So in 2014, you released your first book, correct? Unlearn? Yeah. Was that your first?
Yeah, that was my first. Yeah, I have two. Yeah.
Wow, you have two books. Yeah. Okay.
I have Unlearn and I have Unlearn Beneath the Surface.
Okay. Yeah. So like, what kind of like compelled you to, and like, cause I feel like, were those the years that when you were writing this book, were you going through that, you know, that phase, that part in your life where you're struggling?
Yeah, completely. Like the word unlearn was that sums it all up. What I realized, because I went from being in school to working in a school to only having a school environment always around me. Yeah. School is a government job, so none of your work colleagues are competition. Yeah. You know, and when I worked at the school, everyone's priority was kids. Yeah. And we all kind of felt we're on the same team. When I got into the world of entertainment, I didn't I guess naively assumed it would be the same way. Yeah. Not realizing that all the first people in this industry to recognize my talent, their goal was to exploit it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't like, I like what you do, let me help you get to the next levels. I like what you do, how can I profit off of that? Yeah. Which makes sense now that I've been in the game long enough and I see that. So what I realized was I didn't have to acquire new skills. I didn't have to learn new things. I just had to let go of certain ideas, unlearn certain things. So Unlearn was really birthed out of the idea of, what do I have to teach myself to move forward to this next level? Yeah. And it was a lot of introspective conversations with myself, letting go of a lot of idealisms. Like, I was so idealistic. I thought, you know, like a lot of people are when they're young. Yeah. And the secret to being less idealistic is literally be quiet and pay attention. Like, look around, and you'll start to realize that you know, when people start using words like, things shouldn't be like this, and then, you know, I was able to respond with, when was it ever different? Like, when was life ever fair? Yeah. When was the world ever safe? Yeah. Why do we say this stuff shouldn't be happening when this stuff has been always happening? Yeah. You know, and we start to realize a lot of it is socializing, a lot of it is PR, marketing. You know, countries have their own brands. They sell certain ideas and dreams. Yeah. And if you're able to pull yourself out of that and look at it objectively, not with emotions, and not be jaded, then I think you can really have a healthy relationship with reality and start doing much better in life. Yeah. Yeah. And that like kind of came out. And then from there, you start touring and you start doing
or were you already like touring at the time doing spoken word?
I was doing spoken word and a little bit of music and dropped music on YouTube and at that point back then in Toronto there's like 4 people, brown guys on YouTube in total, and learning that game. And I mean, even at that point, like I didn't have a clear understanding. I didn't know, like I knew that people were YouTubers, and I loved the idea of community. So I wanted to like be on YouTube to get like, I was like, holy crap, that guy has a friend in Australia. They talk every day, and then they had that other friend in Belgium, and like there's this international community of really cool people online. And again, a lot of girls too. So I was like, this is a really cool place to be a part of, and that kind of motivated me to want to be on YouTube. I didn't know anything about earnings. I didn't know nothing about brand deals. I didn't know nothing about any of that world. Yeah. Even when I became friends and I met Lily, and probably a good 2-3 years of her doing her thing, even when she was doing really well, I still had no idea. I actually like, me and her like became better friends actually out here in LA. Wow. I was here for something else. She was here for something else. I think I saw it on like her Facebook, and I just sent her a quick message being like, hey, I don't know if you have friends out here, but I'm out here for the week. Yeah. Holla at me like if you're by yourself, if you just need like a friendly face. Yeah. And then she messaged me back like, hey, I'm working on some big project. It's got me shooting 11 hours every day for the week. Please don't get offended if you don't hear from me. And I was like, yeah, cool. And then the next day she goes, hey, I quit that project. What do you got going on all week? Oh my God. And then that's when she actually, I remember she had just hit 3 million subscribers, and then she came onto one of my music video shoots. So what happened was I came out here to use the YouTube space. I had learned from her about that.
That's where we met.
That's where we met as well.
Who was it? John V. Connected us.
Shout out to John V. Such an amazing.
I know, she was the best.
Yeah, I still in contact with her. I had lunch.
Nice.
I had lunch with her the last time I was out here.
No way.
Yeah. She's amazing. Yeah, I started coming. That's why I started coming out here. Because I was like, yo, a plane ticket out here is cheaper than hiring a bunch of people in Toronto. With what the YouTube space was providing in terms of equipment, locations, editing bays. A plane ticket here was a much better investment than trying to build that all in Toronto. So I came out for that. So when Lily hit me up, and she's like, well, what are you doing for the week? And I was like, I'm shooting this music video. And then she came and was a PA for the music video for the whole week. Yeah, that's
crazy.
And it was just like, and I think that's when we kind of realized, like, you know, there are people that are good. There are people that aren't always trying to take from you. I think we both had experiences with negative with other people. Yeah. And I think us meeting each other was that first opportunity. It's like, wow, I found somebody who cares about this as much as I do. Yeah. Who isn't just looking at it as a part-time gig or a side gig or maybe I might get discovered gig. And I think after that, hanging out with her, then she started showing me this whole other world. I don't even think the city of Toronto back then knew like that she was doing so well. Oh,
that's crazy.
Because she lives very simply as well. Yeah. So like, I think only after all these like Forbes articles and all the stuff started coming out did people kind of realize she was, or like Jimmy Fallon and stuff. Yeah. So, but even then, even when I was hanging out with her, I had no idea. I was like, well, what do you do out here? She goes, oh, companies like pay me to do videos about them.
That's crazy.
I was like, for real? She's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that must be cool. I had no idea how much money or anything. Yeah. And then you were enlightened. You're enlightened, and then and for me that became another distraction because I was like, oh, like the old guy, his brains are, oh, like here's an opportunity to earn. Yeah. Right? Because I wasn't doing very well with money. Yeah. Again, that wasn't going to be sustainable in the long term because that's a game. It's and again, we have a lot of mutual friends, and that's like you see it now, especially. It's a trap. Yeah. It's a lot of people who we know very well who have such multi-dimensional, colorful, amazing personalities and energy, but the algorithm and the quantity over quality forces them to figure one thing that works and stick with it. And it doesn't allow you to outgrow it.
It's hard. It's really hard.
That's the tricky thing. And it's the same thing with music. There's certain artists that got really successful making one type of music. And they wanted to branch out or they want to experiment. And
it's hard because once you develop that audience and they're like, this is what we want you to do, whether it's like film or music or YouTube or like literature, whatever it is, when you develop that audience and they're like, we're here because you write great horror fiction. Yeah. Now, I don't give, like, and if you try to do romantic comedy, they're like, we don't want that.
We're not going to give you a chance.
Yeah, like I want horror, you know? Like, you're trash, you know? So, and it's hard to like, that's always been my fear too, especially being in LA. It's because you kind of you get typecasted, and then you like pigeonholed into like that world.
Yeah.
I'm still with MTV, but like I'm like, okay, I gotta leave soon, because if I don't, people in the industry are like, oh, you can only produce this type of show, you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you got to get out quick before you get stuck. You know, did you ever kind of feel like that when you're doing where you're like, I want to try my hand in video and spoken word and all these other type of things?
I think it actually went the other way. Like,
really?
I know, like in the beginning, like I was making music, and a lot of it had a very strong socially conscious undertone to it.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up in a house where we really listened to music. Mm-hmm. So the only music I listened to was whatever's on TV. Yeah. Whatever's on we had something called Much Music.
Yeah, right? Much Music. Yeah.
So I'd be watching Much Music. I'd be, recording music videos, memorizing songs and stuff like that. But my parents weren't listening to music. That really wasn't happening. And I think what ended up happening was I was never looking at like party music as like, oh, this stuff is crap. I always looked at it as an easier type of music. I was like, this stuff's easy. And I remember just once being challenged by one of my engineers. He's like, all right, let's make a party track, because he was a party DJ as well. He goes, let's make a party track if you can. Yeah. And then I did, and it did very, very well for the time. Like, this was, it was the first music video to like start getting me attention outside of North America. Yeah. I started getting like gigs in like London and India and stuff, and then being told by people like, all right, you have to follow it up with something. And then being like, man, I just did that for fun. I don't want to keep doing that. And then I went back to my other stuff. And then I did see drop in the numbers and drop what have you. But I was like, I don't want to, even in music, I don't want to play that hit single game. You don't want to be like, I would never want to be Cardi B right now. Like, you don't want to have a massive song and being told, all right, follow it up.
Yeah.
Who's the last person that was actually able to follow up their massive hit? Like, Drake? I don't know who came out with massive hits in the beginning and was always able to capitalize and continue it. That momentum's very difficult. It's hard. And you may not be making stuff that's true to you anymore, which in itself, like, I grew up on Outkast. And like, these guys sold 10 million copies of their last album, and then, one half, Andre 3000, was like, I don't want to perform anymore. Yeah. I'm sick of my music. Like, how many artists say that? I'm sick of my old music. I don't want to perform it no more. Yeah. Don't care. Oh, you guys offered me $2 million to perform today for half an hour? No. Yeah. Like, I grew up on that. Yeah. And I was, trying to balance that idealisms with, but I need money, but I need all these things. So I think that's where when I got into the books. So I was like, this is me able to share my thoughts. It's not a collaborative effort. I don't have to wait on other people to make it happen. And it's something I can sell at my shows. It's something that connects with people. And I also crowdfunded the first one. Yeah. And that was a godsend for me. And so I think I just kind of learned this, like, there are more than one way to make money doing this, and you can maintain your authenticity by doing certain things. And I think most recently the lesson I learned was, even outside of authenticity, is the choice between process and content. Where if you tell yourself, all right, I'm dropping a video every single Monday, you can do it with great ideas and great content for so long. But there will be some times where you'll be like, oh crap, it's Monday. What do I do? What do I do? Yeah. What do I do? And I think in the long run, unless you're somebody like Lily, who was doing 2 videos a week before that was even heard of, and she has strengthened a muscle, and she's invested in a team to help her create things quicker and faster on a different scale, you can get trapped in that. And I think I almost got trapped in the idea of quantity over quality. Yeah. And now I've gone the other way, where I'm just like, it'll be done when it's done. I'm not, there will be no BTS, there will be nothing, no announcements, no launch dates. The video will have to be done in my hands, uploaded and ready on YouTube before the world will even know that it's coming. And so be it. You know, like, screw the AdSense, screw all that type of stuff. Let me just make stuff I'm proud of, because we're all chasing feelings at the end of the day. Yeah. And I want to feel good now.
We kind of hit that kind of bump with the podcast as well, where we were like, we're going to do 1 episode a week. And we started that. And then it was like the first few weeks, we couldn't find a guest. So we just kind of settled for somebody, like, I was like, I just don't give a shit about them. Like, I don't want to interview anybody I don't care about. Yeah. Right? Like, everyone I've brought on.
Because it'll come through.
Yeah. And it's like pulling teeth sometimes. And I was like, everyone I want to bring on this podcast, someone I fuck with, you know, like someone I really like. I like their content. I like them. But then, yeah, and I
And
think
that's tricky in LA. I've helped other people who have had podcasts. And,
yeah,
and you realize like they're just looking for the numbers, which
yeah,
I mean, and it is probably a successful recipe
yeah,
to a point.
yeah,
But I mean, then the business model becomes chasing the most popular people
yeah,
and making it about the numbers. And
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't know if it's for us sustainable. I'm not even talking about in a business sense. Like,
yeah.
will you be excited every morning to do the job?
To be honest, man, we've so it's because you lose that passion after
Yeah.
a little bit, you know, and then you take gaps, and then you're like, well, this is a side passion project anyway,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky to I think you set yourself up for failure when you say when you announce how consistent you will be publicly as well. I think if you try to have something in your head where you're like, I'm gonna do my best to be as consistent as possible. I mean, would you do you? I believe, and I could be wrong, that well, I mean, consistency is like the key to success. Like if you do anything consistently, whether it's like you work on your lyrics or you work on making music or you work on developing an audience or losing weight or whatever, gaining weight or whatever it is, if you're consistent. But the bump in the road is when you lose that drive, that passion.
And the question, and it always goes back to like, what was the original flame? Why did the flame go out? I mean, and we have to use our creativity to approach it different ways. Like
Yeah.
you could as well say, all right, cool. Instead of making this a weekly podcast,
Yeah.
I'm going to do seasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you find 10 people you like,
Yeah.
you shoot them all, get them done. Now
Yeah.
you can give 10 consistent weeks.
Oh yeah.
And then either that's a head start to do the rest, or
Yeah.
you take a break,
Yeah. Yeah.
get your mind right, figure out what you want to do. And it's a super tricky thing. I've been asked to start podcasts and do these things a lot. And again, it's kind of like the more you say yes to, you say no to something else.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do, and it really is. And I learned that watching a Steve Jobs interview. He said when Apple fired him, and then he went 10 years without being with Apple, started his own company.
Yeah.
And right before they rehired him, and he did all the amazing stuff,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
asked him, they go, "What's the problem with Apple?" And he goes, "They're focusing on process more than content.
Yeah.
Like they're focused on we need to roll something out. They're not worried about, they want to be the first to, and now if you look at what he did with Apple, it's like, we'll be 3 years late to a certain technology. Like they're making such a big deal about having phones with no buttons, for example, when there's a lot of phones with no buttons.
Shout out to Samsung.
Shout out to Samsung, what have you.
Yeah.
But what I do respect is like, we're going to do it. We'll take our time and we're going to do it right. But we're going to do something magical with it.
Yeah.
And we're going to come with a different angle. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding. They've done so much.
Yeah.
And such an inspiring philosophy. And I think what I realized with me is I was going to do the same thing. So I was like, all right, I had a music video. So I just dropped a music project, Righteous and Ratchet, in June.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wasn't going to drop it until everything was ready, until all my music videos were ready and what have you. And then I ended up getting a commercial with Apple, coincidentally. And I was like, oh crap, I need to drop this when I drop that, because that's going to get me a lot. That was a national, on TV, it was a national campaign in Canada. And then it had an international, they pushed it internationally as well. And I was like, okay, I got to drop it. And then I had to have conversations with people out here. I had a conversation with Lindsay Sterling. She was like, look, just drop your music and then work backwards. It's okay if your music videos come out after.
Yeah.
It's okay if they take a while. She goes, I'm dropping music videos for my album that dropped a year ago.
Wow.
Like, it's okay. And just hearing somebody who's doing it very well to say it's okay,
Yeah.
put me in that position. So it took a month for the first music video to drop after that.
Yeah.
And, then I still told myself, all right, every 6 weeks a new music video. But, those are collaborative projects. The people I'm working with aren't free. I have to work around their schedules as well.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, let it come when it comes. And that's the other thing, like social media and everything has made us assume life moves so much quicker than it really does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
That's very true.
and especially here in LA, because LA has no seasons. So you don't see gradual change. You don't see these things, and it makes a difference. Like, it makes a difference watching snow melt.
Oh yeah.
Realizing like this thing, it doesn't work on anybody else's schedule. Things work at a certain speed. Nature works at a certain speed. You can't force certain things to happen. You can't become an expert quicker than you want to be. You can't earn people's trust quicker. You can't do any of these things. You just gotta consistency and persistence, being persistent. You just gotta keep chipping away slowly, and it doesn't happen on your schedule.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we all have to deal with. Like, it can come, and it usually comes. I think probably the one consistent thing we can say about every single successful person we know is that they simply stuck with it.
Yeah.
They stuck with it longer than other people stuck with it. When other people got tired, exhausted, took a more realistic route, these folks stuck with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work was being done when no one was watching. They were willing to do all the unsexy work that comes with this. And, you know, there's a lot of unsexy work. If you want to mix commerce with your art or your creativity, there's a lot of non-creative work being done.
Oh, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And people who are willing to do that, you start to see the rewards.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. I feel like we've been touching on a lot of just very deep shit, which I love. But, you know, to lighten it up, last year, man, Kanye West took a picture of you. You were at the VMAs. Yeah. What was that? What happened?
How asked me for a picture, yeah.
He asked you for a picture.
That's the only reason I got a picture. Like, if he asked me for a picture, I would have never asked him for a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the VMAs. I was with, shout out to Ty Stiglorious. She runs a company called Friends at Work. She's John Legend's manager.
Oh, okay.
So I had met her and we had become friends, and then she had invited me out. She goes, hey, come through. And she had a couple of her other artists on her roster. Lindsey Sterling's one of their folks as well. So we had gone, and then pretty much it was cool because I had got there a few days early, and she just sent me an email saying, hey, go to this address, you can get all your stuff. Like go to this address a few days early, and like they gave you a parking pass, they gave me my like red carpets. Like I had everything like 3-4 days in advance. Whoa. I was like, wow, this is way more efficient than anywhere I've ever been. Yeah. And then I was just like, all right, cool. Like I want to make a cool shirt for the red carpet. And I started seeing all the headlines about, oh, Kanye West is being given 10 minutes to do whatever he wants. What will he do? Will he diss Taylor Swift? Will he whatever? And I was just like, man, like, I'm such a hardcore fan. I was like, I know that he's not that guy. He's never been that guy. But he's also the kind of guy where if this is making the news, he'll just stay quiet and enjoy the free press. And then, I went up to Harlem and I made this shirt that was like half Kanye West, half Taylor Swift. And it just said in the back, unity is immunity to bullshit. And so I had the shirt, and the only goal of the shirt was to wear it at the red carpet, get myself some good, Getty image type pictures.
I know.
You know how the game goes. So I'm trying to get some cool stuff, and I always love designing clothes. And what ended up happening was, before we went to the show, we had it was a big team dinner. Everyone was having fun. They were like, oh, we're only a few blocks away from like Madison Square Garden. We'll just walk. We ended up walking to the wrong side. It's big.
It's huge.
It's huge. We walked to the wrong door. So they're like, all right, you got to walk all the way around to get in. And so pretty much by the time we got there, the red carpet shut down.
Oh, man.
So I was a little bit down. I was just like, all right, it is what it is. And then we're like, all right, let's like try not to miss the show, like the opening. I think it was like Rihanna opening. So we like got to our seats. And then we got to our seats, Ty, like she immediately like started, mingling with people she knew or what have you. And then she left. And I'm just sitting there with another artist, and we're just watching the show, and we get a text, and she's like, oh, these passes, apparently, like, they take you backstage.
Oh, wow.
So next thing I know, like, we're no longer watching the show. I'm, like, behind the stage. We're backstage. Cool. And then I get back to where all the locker rooms are. I was like, this is super cool. Yeah. And you just see people walking through the halls. Like, this is, like, just soaking in the environment. Yeah. And then I just see a door that says Kanye West on it. I was like, oh, shit. Like, holy crap, Kanye West's door. Like literally, I was excited about seeing the door. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm being, like, the worst little fanboy. And I'm like, I have my phone out, and I'm just, like, I'm literally just trying to record the door so I can, like, show my friends. Yeah. And as I'm still setting it up, he just, like, walks into me.
Oh, my God.
And then I'll just start, and he's just like, wow, that's a cool shirt. He's like, can I take a picture of it? And I was like, sure. And then he took a picture of the shirt. And then I was like, can I have a picture? He's like, sure. Damn. Then we took a picture. And then he was telling his homeboys, I think his homeboy's name's Eli Russell. He's the dude that makes all his videos. Okay. And then he was getting them to look at the shirt. And then I asked him, went into the change room and then kind of kicked it with like some of the other people. And then he was preparing a speech, but I got to like just meet a lot of other people on the team, and it was just this
shit.
real surreal moment. Like, it just happened so quickly. And then what ended up happening, I guess there was like a behind the scenes camera. So when people were watching on TV, I guess when they were like transitioning to commercials, like if they noticed Kanye West, so they turned on the camera.
Yeah.
So like by the time I got to my seat, like my Twitter had blown up.
Oh shit.
Like Humble and Kanye West, and then I was just like, what? How did anybody know any of this?
Yeah.
And then they started showing all this behind the scenes footage, like
Oh
live.
my god.
And it was just super crazy, and it was really cool. I got to meet really cool people off that, especially from his team. I kept in contact and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's dope, man.
Kind of learning how his inner circle works in terms of creativity and how he invests in creative people.
Yeah.
Getting ideas and how he builds them up and stuff like that. I thought it was super cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a really cool experience to kind of see, how some of these award shows work.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
You realize when you're there that you're not in the audience, you're part of the show.
Yeah.
Like nothing there is made to entertain you. Everything's for the TV. And yeah, it was super cool. Got to chat with a lot of really cool people.
That sounds like a great time, man.
It was. I've been really fortunate to have some really cool experiences with super cool people.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really cool to just pick their brains and get these experiences from them and hear some certain insights. And
Yeah.
sometimes they can say the certain things, and they say the one sentence that can just change the whole trajectory of your life. And in terms of that, more so than like looking at them as gatekeepers. I think us as folks in the digital world, we don't really think much about gatekeepers anymore. Like this guy has the power to like give me a career. Like we don't really think like that because we have our own platforms now to like kind of reach our own audience, and that's a lot more sustainable long term than being signed to a record deal or being known as the guy beside the guy. And one day if you get on their bad side, they can completely cut you off. Even movie stars, like studios can cut them off.
I
think with us in the digital world, we don't. So I think for me, it's more so just soaking up as much information and knowledge. And throughout my years, all the really cool elite people I've met in the arts, what I've noticed with all of them is you could tell they would be doing it for free. They would be doing it even if they weren't making a living from it. I think we always have to just go back to that. I have to go back to that teenager I was when I was working so hard on this stuff, or when I was making my first music videos, the amount of hours I was putting in without thinking there would be anything in return. Not counting views, not worried about money, not worried about gigs. Just doing it because you love doing it. Like the rainbow was the reward. There was no pot of gold. It was the journey that made me happy. I wasn't working towards something. That's what I've always been reminding myself moving forward.
Because you take a lot from that journey. That's where you get your battle scars.
And that's all there is, because we keep promising ourselves like at the end of the rainbow it's going to be this reward, and it's going to be so wonderful, and it's going to be worth it, and everything's going to feel like all the energy and everything I did, it's going to finally feel like it was worth it, and everything I sacrificed was worth it. And but the problem is you can hit these milestones, but by the time you hit them, like it's never going to feel the way you think it is. It never ever will, no matter what. Even if you're just a kid in school, like you're like, I'm working my butt off so I can graduate and get a job. Like graduation won't feel as good as how you're daydreaming it to feel. Getting that job won't feel as it. The only things that I've ever felt as good as I daydreamed they would is helping other people.
Okay.
Like if you do something cool for somebody,
that
like,
makes a lot of sense.
That actually lives up. It could actually even be more. That usually lives up to it. But stuff for yourself, and especially if you're in this game, like people chase that. People chase the W's. I call them the W's, the wins. They chase the wins, and then you get a win today, and then you're like, what do I do tomorrow now? I haven't had a win in a while. I haven't had acknowledgement. I haven't felt valuable. And that's all external. And then that in itself, like Jay-Z said that. He goes, fame is the worst drug known to man. It's worse than heroin. And I see that through and throughout, especially out here.
Especially in this industry, you see, you being a lot older than a lot of these guys and girls that are, in this world. I think you have that experience to be able to see someone spiral out. And then what people do to stay relevant. And I guess that goes back into what you and Jay were saying about fame. How even that word relevant is such an abstract term. It's like, she's not relevant anymore, he's relevant no more. And you're kind of like chasing that. And I guess for me, because
most of my daydreams, because when I didn't have any money, all of us thinking in my head with Kanye West, like, wait till I get my money.
Yeah,
right?
can't tell me.
Yeah, and then so then, you know, coming out here and seeing so many people whose money is right,
Yeah.
still being sad. I remember being around some guys who, you know, who do very well, who are very relevant, who are earning much. And I remember like they're like looking at pictures of girls on Instagram, and then one of the dudes said to the other, he's like, yeah, but she don't mess with regular dudes like us. She only messes with like, and then he just named like some Hollywood actor. I mean, there's always going to be levels to this. There will always be levels to this. There will always be somebody, especially in LA, that can make all your accomplishments seem cute.
Yeah.
And not enough.
It's really discouraging sometimes.
Well, and if you, it's because we're playing, we are tribal. We're tribal people. We're tribal animals. All of us.
Okay.
You know, you walk into your home, and you instantly line yourself up within the family in the hierarchy. You know, maybe your parents are above. You might have smaller siblings. What have you? You walk into a party. You're able to do the same thing. You go to middle school. Who's the most popular kid? Who's this? Whatever. It's all these hierarchies. The problem is, and this is in our wiring, but the problem is when we start going into these bigger situations like the city of Manhattan, the city of LA, there is no hierarchy. There's not one straight line.
Yeah.
There's multiple ladders, there's multiple kingpins. So what happens is you think you're climbing a certain ladder, and all of a sudden you start seeing somebody else who does different things. So like, especially, for example, a lot of YouTubers out here are trying to get into Hollywood.
Yeah.
So now in one world, they're A-listers.
Yeah.
Get treatment, they get spoiled, they can get away with being divas, they get overpaid and underworked. And then they go to Hollywood and
it's completely different.
They're at the bottom of the barrel.
They're not respected. They're not taken serious.
They're discriminated against.
Yeah.
And some people thrive off that. Some people love climbing the ladder. Some people get disheartened by it. And it's a super interesting thing because the real disease is the simple idea that we're just comparing ourselves to other people.
Yeah.
And as artists or creatives, there's nothing good that comes from that. There's a really good book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And he talks a lot about this. And he goes, you have to be an effective artist, you have to abandon the hierarchy. You have to abandon the tribe. And you have to become...
That's so hard.
Yeah, you can no longer be a tribal animal. You have to be an animal of territory. He goes, you have to choose your territory and you have to take satisfaction from it. So he's like, Arnold Schwarzenegger's territory is the gym. Stevie Wonder's territory is the piano. And he goes, your territory is whatever you would be doing, even if no one else on the planet was there to watch you do it. Yeah. And finding your bliss through that and realizing that, like, because it is here. When you start mixing art and industry, there's always going to be that hierarchy. Who is the, there's Forbes lists, there's what have you. Like the digital world, which was not designed. The digital world is a community. Like if I make videos and you make videos, people don't have to choose between us. Yeah. We're not on, it's not like TGI Fridays where you got to, am I watching Full House or am I watching this show? Because at 8 o'clock, you only have time to pick one. Or when we were younger, going to the music store, I got $15. Whose CD am I buying?
No, one album,
Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. But now we're on platforms and communities, so now they can watch your video and watch mine right after. Now, if my album drops the same day as Kanye West, if they're on Spotify or they're on Apple Music, they don't have to choose between. They can listen to both, save both, or do what have you. So then you start to see these artificial hierarchies being created, like these award shows. Yeah. That's a big one. You're like, why are we pitting each other against each other? Like, what does it make? It's not competition the same way as the automotive industry is competition, and it encourages better products. Yeah. Like, what does turning YouTubers against each other do? Yeah. It doesn't. It takes away from the community. Why can't we just pick 5 people a year and honor them? Yeah. Just be like, let's honor so and so. Let's honor Michelle Pham this year. Let's honor Ryan Higa. Let's honor them. Have a big ass party. Everyone knows why we're there. Yeah. And let's just celebrate it and let's take inspiration. I watch these guys and try to learn as much as I can from them. I don't look at them as competition. Yeah. I don't know how they could be competition. And I feel like that also takes away because, again, you got people who are earning, who are doing very well, who are having an impact, but they don't feel valuable anymore because somebody else got that opportunity, or kids online are comparing them to so-and-so and they're saying so-and-so, and that stuff gets in people's heads. It does, man. And it's toxic. and it comes at a huge price. And I think when I started seeing too much of that here, I was like, all right, time to go home.
Yeah.
Time to go home and be around folks who have
Settle down. Yeah.
a little bit more, who are dealing with more authentic issues.
Yeah.
Go back and hear about, somebody who's dealing with MS, dealing with cancer, dealing with some real life shit.
Yeah.
Not their ego getting bruised.
I do that too. I try to go back to my family's in Virginia, so I try to go back at least once a month or once every other month, just so I can just be there, deal with like that drama of family, drama of like, what should we do with, so like whatever issue it is, it's like I can just be removed from the rat race, and I think you just go there to decompress.
Yeah, because I don't even, rat race is a good description, but I feel like this is like a rat race on drugs. Like it's such a, like, I always have to remind myself, because it's like I want to be ambitious, I want to work.
Yeah.
And definitely LA is a great place to be productive.
Yeah.
And as shady and as unreliable the people are here, you can't say any of them are lazy.
Yeah.
I think no matter any creator you see doing very well on YouTube, whether you agree with their content or not, the one thing you can say is they're not lazy.
Yeah.
And I love that as well. And I love feeding off that energy. But I do think sometimes I was like, if tomorrow I get diagnosed with a terminal disease, outside of all the bullshit social media posts in my honor or get well soon, whatever, like how many of these people are going to stick around, be around me, talk, who are those people? And those are all the people back in Toronto. And it's that constant battle of, I want to value them. I want to be there for them, but I can't just stay home. Yeah. That they still have cultures and beliefs and ideas that are not good for my productivity, not good for my art. It's there's still a lot more fear-based stuff back home. Again, people are a lot more cautious. I still need to be around risk takers, and it's about trying to find that balance. It's a real challenge. Yeah.
Man, we could sit here and talk for hours, but I really appreciate you coming through. We hit our like hour and 10 mark. Oh,
dope. That's how long you normally do, about an hour?
Yeah. I mean, if it's bad, I try to cut it at like 35 to 40 minutes. If it's like, I'm like, there have been times where like I've gotten to like, it was just really hard getting a conversation or just like talking to somebody. I'm asking them questions or hitting me with 1-word responses. Yeah. And I'm like sweating bullets. I'm like, all right, it's been like at least an hour, and look down, it's like 20 minutes. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, what am I going to do?
Is that the biggest challenge you found so far with this podcast?
No, the biggest challenge. All right, so our podcast, I really wanted to just focus on the diverse community of creators. Yeah. Whether that's actors or musicians or YouTubers or whatever they are, I want to focus on like diverse voices. Okay. Because I don't feel like there's a lot of platforms for that. Mm-hmm. So one was like to find the people that I like, because there's a lot of like diverse creators, but I just don't like I don't agree with the content that they make, and I'm like, I don't want to even talk to them.
Some of them don't agree with the content they make.
I understand that. Yeah. Sucks, and it's like, and they do what they have to do to pay their bills and stay alive and support their families.
And that's the big one. Like, these people are all supporting their families. Yeah. Even if you don't like them, realize like some of them, their little siblings get to go to school because they're the sole provider. They're paying. Yeah. And I feel like those people should put those stories out there as well.
Oh, of course, yeah. And so it was difficult to just get the guests, because and then from there it's like, all right, I got to reach out to like not only do I want a diverse group of people, but like I need to diversify my guests as well. So our biggest challenge has been getting women on the podcast. And and it's always like something where I'm like, is it my approach? Is it my emails? Or is it my messages? Am I coming off too creepy?
How many episodes have you had?
I think this is like 32.
32, okay.
Yeah, and we've done it for like a year.
I know, like, for me personally, it's one bias I now have when people reach out to me for podcast. And no, you know what? It probably would have been with you too, even though you're a friend. It's, if you're just starting, I'm going to say no. Yeah. Because neither of us have a crystal ball, and let's see if you're going to stick with it. Like, this is a year old, you're sticking with it. Yeah. There's a lot of people who are just starting out and they always want to start with a bang. Yeah. And what they got to realize is that you should not start with the bang.
Yeah.
Even if you do have a friend who can get you a lot of traffic,
Yeah,
work
yeah.
your way up to them.
Yeah.
That way you worked out all the kinks and the issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that was actually, it's funny, that was one of our approaches where I was like, let's just hit up just like friends that'll do it for like that are in town. They're like, yeah, I'll swing by, you know, and then from there I can start reaching out to, you know, other people. And then the best part have been when other like big creators have been like, oh, we want to do your podcast, and I'm like, oh, thank you. You listen, man. I'm flattered, you know? So that's always a great feeling.
You know what you could do that could be cool? Like you could just put up a dream list on the wall.
Yeah.
And then I feel like whenever you get a guest in here, just point them to the list and be like, is there anybody here you can help me get? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
'Cause you never know.
Yeah.
Like there's a guy in Canada named Nardwar.
Dude, I love Nardwar. That was like my biggest inspiration of like
one of the best, and he does that.
Yeah. Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he, I mean, like, he'll win people over.
Yeah.
And he'll, you know, so like he won Pharrell over, and then Pharrell
got him Jay-Z. Yeah.
So I mean, like, there are ways to do it, and again, you never know if you don't ask. I mean, and you guys already know that here. That was the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I know a lot of us Canadians deal with out here, because Canadians, we're not used to. We consider asking somebody twice, badgering them.
Yeah.
We don't want to bother, you know. But you realize out here, it's like, no, you're not badgering them. You're just poking them and reminding them. Dude, oftentimes. Yeah.
I thought I was doing that, and that was like my approach. Where I was like, I just gotta like, because there's been other people that I've had to like email a million times. Yeah. Like there's this one rapper, Dumbfounded, and he's this Korean American rapper. He lives in the neighborhood too. Yeah. And he's dope, and I messaged him once. He was like, I'm down. He said he was down. And then I had to like continue, like for like 2 months, just blow him up. Yeah. And when I was like, when we finally met, I was like, I'm so sorry for blowing. He's like, no. He was like, I appreciate that you did that. You know,
you gotta stick with it. And that's and you can't take it personal either. I think that's the biggest lesson I learned in LA is don't take anything personal. Yeah. There's no value in taking it personal, even if it is personal.
Yeah. And then the problem was I was doing that with another guest I've been trying to get, and I blew up. I didn't blow up his emails. I just sent one email like every other week to be like, hey, just touching back. And then they sent me an email basically being like, yo, stop. Like I'm busy. Hey, but if I got time,
but I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah,
right? You gotta be willing to face that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's with anything. That's like, you gotta. Rejection and failure are not the opposite; they're part of it.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's cool. What's the biggest lesson you've taken away so far from this process?
Oh man, I think it's been the guest itself. I don't like the process. Has been interesting. I feel like what we had in mind kind of worked out. Like our game plan of like launching the podcast and the guests that we wanted, it all kind of worked out how I mapped it out. But the thing that I think it was just people's stories, and everyone's story, as different as it is, there's still this common thread that I've been able to like sow and see between everybody, you know, and their rise and their struggle, and you know, with their families. That's why I always ask about family, because like being, you know, either first or second generation Indian Canadian or Afghan American or whatever hyphenated identity that we are, trying to like do something non-traditional and how our parents react to that, because so many young kids want to do that. They're like, yo, I'm stuck doing like business, like studying business, but I want to do like writing, or I want to do music, or I want to do film, I want to do something. And they're like, and then the question I would always get is like, how did you convince your parents? So then I always tell my story, but then I'd always love hearing how other people.
And I think that's a big one, especially with as you said, like the plus ones. That's what we are. We're plus ones. We are whatever we are here plus something else. Yeah. And what I realized was, it's a lot of kids frustrated that their parents don't understand their passions or their dreams, but making no effort to try to understand where their parents are coming from. They look at them as tyrants. They don't understand. Like my father has a master's degree and he drove a cab.
Oh wow.
Like he was a cab driver for 30 years. He just retired 2 years ago. Yeah. Like let me try to understand where he came from, where he gave up from, what, why he may have issues with me doing what I do.
Yeah.
And eventually, and then, as I slowly started learning and working, like, and now there's certain things I do, like, he's the only person, like a rapper, I will show him my money.
Yeah.
Like, he's the only person that I will do that to.
Yeah.
Because I realize it's a source of pride for him.
Of course.
He put up with a lot. My dad got physically attacked.
Oh my God.
I remember being a kid, seeing him with a black eye. He had to put the big shield up in the cab. Like, he went through some shit. And for me to turn around and be like, oh, my parents don't support my, like, holy shit. The only reason we speak with these accents is because they left home in their early 20s to a whole new country, and even if, and we have to take some time to understand that if we're able to do that, and then we're able to be like, hey, look, I know why you want safety and security. Yeah. But hey, let me, like, even telling my father, like, you were a cab driver, you got out early because look, Uber's coming in, disruptors come in all the time. Yeah. A lot of parents want their kids to go to university to get these certain jobs, but literally outside of entrepreneurship, nothing is guaranteed. Yeah. There are no steady jobs anymore. Industries are dying all the time. Yeah. And coming with that perspective, and I think with your audience that's watching this, they gotta take some responsibility and be like, what do I understand from them? Yeah. If I had a conversation with them and let them know that I understand where they're coming from, we can maybe meet in the middle a little bit more. Yeah. And I think, again, the biggest thing I think for me, I didn't get a lot of resistance, was I was working 2 jobs and doing this. Wow. And the moment, so it was like, I would come home literally every day at 1 a.m. and would probably sleep by 2, and I would be up by about 6:37 and do it again. Yeah. And I was losing weight, I was sleep deprived, I wasn't eating well. So I think when I said I'm going full time with this, they had already seen it wasn't an excuse to, like, not work or do anything. And the moment you start going on your own, you don't want to work a 9 to 5. You're trading it for 24/7. Yeah. You work every single day, every single moment, even if you're not working. Yeah. You're thinking about work. This is way more work than taking the other route. Definitely. And I think I hope your audience can grasp that this isn't the easy way, and it's not. And the other thing too, I touched upon earlier. You do not get to pursue your passions. The people here who are doing things on an elite level, they're not passionate. No. They're obsessed. Yeah. It's breathing for them. Most of them don't have a choice in what they do. They're obsessed with it. Eminem is obsessed with lyrics. Yeah. He's doing that. We have to be, what I realize with myself is I'm obsessed with learning. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm learning new things, and I'm trying to share them through my art, different perspectives and ideas. But it's asking questions is my real goal with this now. Asking questions that aren't being asked, seeing angles that aren't being seen. And I think with a lot of kids, as you said, I dabbled in photography. I want to be a photographer. But the question really is, I think people need to go deeper and be like, what about photography do you really love? Yeah. Like, I was writing spoken word, then I started writing music, then I started writing books. Then I realized I enjoy all of this because I enjoy bringing ideas to life. It was never just about music. Yeah. And I think a lot of tough questions the youth have to ask themselves before they start painting themselves as a victim of their circumstances. Yeah. What stories do they want to tell? What are they willing to do? Mm-hmm. Because then if you really want to do something, having a day job could be part of the hustle. Yeah. You want to be a photographer, then you look at your day job as the gig that pays for your equipment, so you don't have to take the gigs you don't want to take. Yeah. And do different things. So I have friends who are doing part-time jobs, supply teaching jobs. I got homies out here driving Uber, doing auditions at night. Yeah. Like, having that spectrum and seeing all of that, I think is extremely important. Yeah. Definitely, man. All right. Thank you so much for coming by, man. Yeah. I love it. I love the conversations and everything. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I had some notes lined up and we completely went in a different direction. But I enjoyed it. It was very conversational, and I learned a lot. And, I went on this little roller coaster with him. I felt the stress and the success and everything, and I'm really happy for everything that's kind of worked out for him. That's about it. Yeah, I have nothing to say, literally. I mean, like, we filmed this. Oh man, this is mid-October in Los Angeles, right? I was just in the East Coast, and I had a little stop in Canada. In Canada, it was snowing. In the East Coast, it was like
60, 70 degrees. Right now, mid-October, Sunday afternoon, it was 100 degrees during this interview. And for you Celsius folks, that's what, 37.7 degrees Celsius. And I don't have an air conditioner. Well, I mean, I have to turn off the fans or any type of air because, like, it picks up on the mics and it just sounds weird with, like, this weird hum and buzz in the background. So we sat here for an hour and a half with no air conditioning in the 100-degree heat. But yeah, that was that. Asif, I don't know, man. Can somebody, like, put out a search party for Asif? I don't know where this guy is. I don't know where he went, man. Is he tweeting? Is Asif tweeting? Is he on social media? I don't know, man. Anyway, next week we have Rami Youssef. You might have seen him on the Colbert, the late night show with Colbert, whatever. He did a really funny stand-up piece. He is on the upcoming season of Mr. Robot, and he just got his own show on Hulu, which will be coming out next year probably. So anyway, enjoy that, and enjoy this episode. Subscribe and do all that jazz, you know. And we'll see you next week. Bye.